Hello, everyone. We're here, episode 2 in the Design Lounge, season 5. I'm here with Matthew McCormick from Vancouver, and we'll get into it more like an international. But before we get started, let people who don't know who you are already explain who you are and what exactly is that you do.
Absolutely. My name is Matthew McCormick. I'm the founder and creative director of Matthew McCormick Studio. We produce high-end decorative light fixtures that are made here in Vancouver and in Italy, and we sell globally as well as locally.
Absolutely. And you actually led me perfectly. But before we get started, what I want to talk about is this. So I think I met you the first time it had to be Vancouver IDS maybe 2 years ago when I didn't realize we were
Yep.
going to after party. And I realized that later when I was going through these questions. And then, of course, at IDS again, we had the conversation on stage. And then, of course, the Gray Awards. You were just there. You won an award. Congratulations on that. But my
Yeah.
question about that is it all of Canadians or is it just Vancouver people that know how to party the best in the world? Because I swear, at the end, for people that weren't there, at the end of the party, it was you and another set of separate Canadians that were there and like till the lights came on.
Yeah, I think I maybe chalk it up. I'm a little bit coastal in that way. I'm originally from Toronto, now residing in Vancouver for the past 20 plus years. But yeah, no, I think it's maybe it's a Canadian thing. We know how to party and hold our liquor.
Absolutely, yeah, no, and keep the party going, get the party going. I met other Canadians randomly in other places, not when I wasn't in Canada, and it seems like that is true, right? Like whenever I meet Canadians, they are ready to go. But going to
Absolutely.
the international theme. So I know you said in 2017, you said like you were setting your sights on Europe. But
Mhm.
before that, 2013, you're launching. You're in a parking lot. I think you said it best. You had a blowtorch in a dream. At that
Yeah.
time, were you already setting your sights internationally, or do you think you would get to that point, or was that in the back of your mind?
You know what, to be perfectly honest, a little bit of the genesis of the company and within myself, before I got into lighting was actually kind of very much by accident. When I first started off, or first started into my career as an adult, I was in advertising for 15 years.
Totally.
Worked as a designer, art director, then creative director, and moved my way up. But it wasn't until I bought my first place and I was doing my own renovations. When I completed it, I had a dinner party and a random dinner guest came by. I was like, I love what you've done with the place. So where'd you get your lighting? I'm like, I made it. He's like, you made it? He's like, what about the one
Right.
over there? I'm like, made that one too.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, would you be willing to do a restaurant? Which actually was just around the corner from where I lived at the time.
Okay.
And I landed that, and one thing led to another. And I had a mentor at the time who was like, "This is so clearly what you need to be doing. How many lights are you gonna have to sell before you're making more money doing that than you're
Yeah.
making here?" I'm like, "Sadly, not that many." And so I made the leap, and I started to get into it, but it was really just based on passion. And so
Hmm.
when we first started off, it was very much about doing very bespoke installations. So working together with architects and interior designers to create very site-specific work. Um,
Gotcha.
but as things started to grow, and I think within the first 2 months, we were getting calls from Macau and various parts of the world. I'm like, how the heck are they getting a hold of us?
Yeah.
And this was early days of Instagram and social media, so to speak. And it really afforded us to expand. And then after a few years of doing custom, we realized, hey, we have something here. We have a bit of a product line, which you're
Yeah.
kind of building inherently with doing all this custom work, but allowed us to iterate on our own designs and refine them. Then it went from a one-person army of myself to I think we're about 12 at the time, and we grew into. I went from you mentioned the parking lot with a blowtorch and a dream to into my father-in-law's. It was my girlfriend at the time.
Okay.
Now father-in-law's garage, then into 10,000 square feet. Then we have various manufacturers that we work with, and to answer your question, I don't think I never sought out for that. But,
Yeah.
as we started to get international attention, we started to set our sights on, if we're going to be a global company, we've got to start thinking globally.
Gotcha.
And if you can work with the best, and that may be in Italy or various parts of the world, why not? And so we've really very, very much diversified with how we produce things, if it's our glass production, finishing. We try to seek out the best in the world to produce our sets. We want to be world class.
Now, was there a turning point? Was there a specific product or commission work or job, or was there a specific client? Or as you mentioned, like I said, I'm going to get into this later. I know some of the commission work sometimes kind of inspire some of the products that come down the line. But what was that turning point for you as the company where you're like, okay, I know you mentioned it. We're now go. We want to work with the best. Was it the need to work with the best, or was it a product that you were making? Like, what was that turning point for you guys?
Actually, yeah, it was more. I think the turning point was we were really fortunate to work with a lot of big restaurants early on. We did lots of residential and other commercial projects, but there was a few restaurants that we got into that really like to invest in their atmosphere. And so, a lot of restaurants, especially here in Vancouver, you walk in, it's very much you got your leather banquettes, you've got your millwork package, and you've got your kind of standard decorative lighting. And some of the lighting that we've done, this isn't your typical stuff that you can get. There's commissions that we had that were 30 feet wide, 60 feet long, weighed 3,000 pounds, took 2 18-wheelers to drive it across the country. You're
Okay.
not going to be able to go to your local lighting store and pick that up. But in doing that, people are, oh, I love what you've done over there. I want something a little bit smaller, something a little bit more proportionate for my home. And we started to do that. Then one project led to another. And like I said, we were able to refine on it, always based on our own authorship and our own design aesthetic. And it was from there that, we need to be able to scale up. We need to be able to produce lots of these. And from a business standpoint, I think I was maybe a little bit naive because when you're doing custom, you may have 7 to 10 projects a year. It's going to take a lot of human resources to be able to design, engineer, build, create, ship, logistics, all that sort of stuff to get it places. It's like, oh, well, if we had a product line that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel every single time, we could make money while we sleep.
Yeah.
Very naive. It's a totally different business altogether. It requires an ERP system to manage all your inventory, know where every single nut and bolt is. Now you need an operation manager, you need a logistics manager, you need marketing to be able to make sure stuff's coming in, and a whole team. And so it becomes a lot more robust. And now, although we swam one way at the beginning, swung the other way a couple of years ago, now we're diversifying, going back to our roots.
Okay.
And doing a lot more custom projects, which my team likes to say fills my cup. That's a really great point. We're really getting into it here, but
Yeah.
even in Italy, for example, a lot of the work that we do is made metal, and so there's metal finishing, and so we do a lot of manufacturing here as well, and a lot of some of the early work, had machine parts, and like I was mentioning before, CNC, so everything is very precise.
Yeah.
Everything is polished to perfection. Whereas in Italy, a lot more things are a little bit more hand done. And so they
Okay.
really appreciate the irregularity, maybe, of finishing. And so it's something that we had to kind of get used to, but also celebrate it because it is something different. This isn't just a computer pumping this out. This has been hand touched. So, when we're getting some of our parts finished, we're alongside B&B Italia, Minotti, and the like, where everything is done by hand, so it is a lot more hand touch. And so it's funny. Different regions call for different things. I know if you're comparing, say, North America to Germany, everything
Hmm.
has to be very perfect, very precise.
Yeah.
In Italy, a little bit more artisan, if you will. And so yeah, it does definitely swings in various directions.
Is that allowing you or forcing you, if you will, in a good way to stretch as a designer? I know you mentioned like you were in the past, perfection was like the thing, right? And was
Oh
it
yeah.
the customer, was it the over that where you're like, okay, I can loosen the reins a little bit, and it kind of made you like maybe like I said, a perfectionist versus an artisan. I don't know if there is a distinction between those two because they're both are trying to achieve the same thing, right? But
Well, yeah, great questions. You've done your homework here. Yeah, I think even with our OVA collection, you mentioned already,
yeah,
it was one of the first times, not that first time we've worked with glass. We
yeah,
work with lots of different glass, be it chemical glass, which is borosilicate glass, artisan glass, which is typically more mouth blown, engineered glass, pour glass. There's a bunch of different techniques to be able to grade that. But when we set out to create a new product, usually similar to when I worked in advertising, there's usually a brief, like what is the problem that we're trying to solve?
yeah,
What category is that? What price points are we trying to hit? And so there's a real strategy around it. And then we go off and we start researching different shapes and forms, which informs, we start sketching, then we take from sketch to into SolidWorks, we start modeling it up. From modeling, then we start 3D printing. So we actually have a human proportion. So, much to the chagrin of my team, I'm constantly like, less here, less this. I'm like, I don't want to see this. And
Yeah.
so I'm constantly changing things, and I need to know when to stop. But I know when I need to stop is when I
Yeah.
can't take anything else away. It's got it down to one note, and
Yeah.
that one note has to be the magic of it all. And you mentioned OVA specifically, and although with glass blowing, especially mouth blowing, the technique that we use is very unique in the way to get this shape and this color, and it is very challenging to do. Um, but the glass wants to do what it wants to do. So you could blow it, put it into a mold, but it's not until it comes out of the annealer and you put a light in it that you actually, the real magic is revealed. And it can look bad, it can look good. Full disclosure, that's how OVA really came about. We studied and worked on this form, 3D printed, what have you.
Because
Um,
not to interrupt, but it was a custom project, right? A custom project. What I'm gonna say it wrong, but was it carbon Chon or something like that, where you were working on that and that kind of like inspired or got the over project?
well, it's funny. We were already working on OVA for
Okay.
probably about a year, and then we had a project that they came into studio and they saw some samples like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, it's just something we're working on. And then we actually did a custom piece for them. It was
Okay.
more of a armature light, rather than a pendant,
Okay.
but it really afforded us to kind of really refine the technique. But it actually, although we just launched Amber,
Uh-huh.
truth be told, our first version that we came out back in September was a happy accident. Amber was what we were trying to achieve the whole time.
Okay.
When we were testing out,
Exclusive. It's in the design lounge exclusive. We
exclusive,
love it.
exclusive,
We
exclusive.
love it. We love it.
Yeah, the when we came out with OVA originally, like I said, we were prototyping it. We were just trying to get the methodology down, right? uh, in the glass blowing, how much material do we need of each to be able to blow a white bubble that is completely encased in clear glass. And doing that technique, so we were just using white opal glass and clear glass just to get that down. The OVA amber, which you're referring to,
Yeah.
same form factor, same principle methodologies, but it has this gradation to it. It goes from almost like a beer bottle brown to this amber, almost to a light beige
Okay.
in some cases. But it was the technique that formed the first one. We got it out of the annealer,
Yeah.
stuck a light in it. We're like, wow, this is beautiful. And we're like, maybe we should just launch this as part of the collection. And so, that was our baby step. But the whole time we were trying to achieve the amber version. And so through that process, we launched with the white, and we call it clear and frosted. We have two different versions. And when we started to see traction of that, it was just like a no-brainer. We need to come up with another color. We need to get amber across the line. And I'm sure there'll be other color variations in the near future now that we've really cemented and refined this process.
Totally. I know you said you're as a company, you're going back to your roots with the more custom work. And I know like a thing like that initiates or will spawn into, the product line. How important is it to have the custom work? And is that why you're leaning more to that now? Are you trying to get back into that? Because I know that's your passion is to doing the customized bespoke work. And then is that what's going to get the 2025, 2026 collections maybe of the stuff you do upcoming? Yeah. I know you said that was your passion about. It seems like one of your other passions is travel, right? I know you're just in Lake Como. I know you draw inspiration from like Shanghai. So I guess it's a two-part question. As an international designer,
Yeah,
what is your favorite city to visit? And then what city do you draw the most inspiration from creatively?
that's a great question. You mentioned Lake Como in Italy, and every time again, I'm grateful to be able to go to Milan Design Week every year. And especially because I just came back from there. There's always this uh, happy anxiety you want to go there. Primarily, I know I'm going to get my mind blown. I just don't know
Hmm.
how yet. If
Yeah.
it's super exclusive dinners or meeting with people, or just having certain serendipitous things that happen to be a meetup or photo shoots, which we just did, that were very impromptu. help produce incredible memories.
Yeah.
But that being said, part of the reason why, we'll get into it later, but part of the reason why we go to Italy is because, it's one of the things I've learned. I didn't believe it at first, but I think here in North America, sometimes we can be a little bit late to the dance.
Yeah.
With Europe, we look to them for what's hot new next because
Hmm.
of their rich history and art and design culture. And so every time I go there, it's funny. I do a photo dump at the end of my trip, and most of them I'm taking pictures of like weird like fire hydrants or piping or like weird architecture because there's some of these designs, and it could be a facade, it could be a trash can, it could be beautiful architecture
Yeah.
where you never know where the inspiration is going to strike, but it's just rampant there. And it's a and then the world shows, then the world shows up to this event where you've got the top artists and designers and architects alike descending on the land for that week. It's quite the gathering for sure.
No, no, for sure. And what's crazy about that is, you think it's 2024, right? We're all connected. The world is inherently small, but there's nothing like being like entrenched in the culture, right? It used to be that way with
But,
fashion, right? Where like you see things and it used to be okay, things were a year and a half ahead in New York or Europe or 6 months ahead,
mhm,
and now you can see it
mhm,
instantly. But there's something different about walking the streets of Paris than seeing something that's reproduced by, a Zara or whatever. And you're like, yeah, but it's just not the same. It's just missing something. There's nothing like actually being there and seeing it firsthand.
100%.
Yeah, no,
I couldn't agree more.
yeah, yeah, no, totally. I saw that when I was in Paris last year. So I know you mentioned Milan Design Week. I know you're just there, and I know you had. How do you have an impromptu photo shoot with what is it? The Ova Amber chandelier? Like how does that? How is that? I want to get the story behind. How is that impromptu?
You're reading my mail, so you're getting the exclusive here. Where I've actually just been working on a little bit of it myself. So what we wanted to do this a couple of years ago, where it
Okay.
would be a great idea to kind of do a guerrilla marketing campaign where we're able to take our lights, put them in very unique, unexpected places, and
Hmm.
if that's in very iconic places within Italy, or like I said, have a bit of a juxtaposition of like, how are you even getting power here? There's no light source. You're out in the field or what have you.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be able to capture that and, you know, garner some attention by thinking a little bit outside the box.
Almost like an
And
installation.
yeah, the installation, but like we're putting it in multiple places. So full disclosure, so we went with that intention. So we were a little shy of a week early for design week. So after we set up our stuff at Rosanna Lundy's gallery, at night we'd hit the streets, and this year it was super hot, 28, 29 degrees every single day. That's for my Canadian friends. I forget what that translates for.
It sounds like
It's
about
hot.
80. It's hot, but you know what? I'm in Arizona right now,
Oh,
so
so I have
so
nothing in common.
so. I mean,
That's
that's
light
like
breeze.
sweater weather for me. That's sweater weather.
Fair enough, fair enough. And so, yeah, we hit the streets at night, and we started to do, here it was. I created this kind of modular system that could run my lights on a battery pack, and I went and rigged up, some marine rope. I internalized all my wiring with a carabiner, so I like literally like Indiana Jones it around a light post, rig up my lights, hoist
Okay.
it up, and get the photos. But
It looked amazing, by
but
the way. The
then
social media I seen it looked. I mean, let's be honest. That chandelier anywhere is going to look amazing, but I'll let you continue.
I know, I appreciate it. Well, and yes, we knew we were going to get great photos and video out of just seeing it. But I
Hmm.
think what we really want to do is really tell the story, like a
Yeah.
little bit more of this kind of provocative. Think of like Banksy-esque, where you're sneaking
Okay.
around,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're rigging
Yeah.
things up that you probably shouldn't be doing, and it just wasn't working in
Okay.
Milan. And so we ended up taking a trip and staying out in a little countryside town called Pavia, about half an hour outside Milan. Outside my window, as I opened it, there was this beautiful meadow. It was kind of framed in by two highways, a train station off in the distance, and then a massive river. I'm like, how are we going to get in there? So we have in the middle of this meadow was this super derelict building that looked like it was kind of falling apart, maybe a 4 or 5 story building. And so we hatched a plan. I was with my videographer, and I'm like, look, let's go check that out. So we hatched a
Yeah.
plan. We're gonna wake up at 5 in the morning. let's go check it out. So we go, we walk around trying to figure out how we're going to get down. Like, how do we get down off the highway? We can't cross all these train tracks. That's not going to happen. Needless to say, we found a way. We get into this place. And, it's the closest thing to like Blair Witch or Indiana Jones I've ever felt, because we go into this place, and even my videographer in the little short video that we're going to be putting out shortly, where like, he's like, you go first. Like, this is how
Right. Yeah.
the ethnic guy dies first.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm like,
Always,
oh.
always, always.
So I go in first, and as we're walking around, he's like, "Dude, look, watch where you're walking, because there's all these boards down. And I look,
Okay.
because there's holes in the floor that go like 2 stories down. Like,
Oh,
this
damn.
place
Okay.
was probably hundreds of years old,
Yeah.
and most of it was just held together with like hundreds of stilts, trying to just keep this building upright. And sure enough, we walk around, and then we go downstairs, and it was pitch dark. And here with me with the light bar, and we're looking at each other like, guess we're doing this. Oh yeah, thumbs up. um, the So we go downstairs, and here it is pitch black. We don't know if we're going to run into animals. We don't know if we're running into
Right.
waters or dead bodies. Who knows? Like, no
Yeah.
one's been in here for years and years.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we get downstairs, and it's this beautiful open room, obviously like concrete and very realistic architecture. It must have been some sort of like water station, because there is a raging river behind that they
Okay.
had dammed at one point. And we have this whole space. There's only one place to hang all these beautiful art ceilings, and it just so happened that that one anchor point allowed us to have like multiple angles and to shoot it. And so, needless to say, this was it was very impromptu, running gun. We're just like, for prosperity, we're just filming it with our phones. And then
Yeah.
at the end of the trip, I'm like, we just exchanged, both my videographer, who has his phone and my phone up, before we brought out the big guns to actually shoot the product. We combined all that footage, and we're like, oh my God, there's something here.
Yeah.
And so I'm eager I've been spending my nights just putting a little edit together
Okay.
together with him. And so we'll see that one soon. So I'm hoping to a little bit behind the scenes. It's easy to show like the polished, right?
Yeah.
Like, and we have
No.
that, but it's kind of cheeky to show behind the scenes.
I think people love that though, right? They love that. I think especially they want to see like what goes on. Like, again, we know what the finished product is, but how did you get there? What was the story behind it? What were the obstacles you went through? As being your background as an ad exec, I would imagine that has helped you garner, international attention as far as from a marketing perspective. Is that true?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I think
Just knowing how to
there's
market.
yeah, I'm not. This isn't an original thought, but
Yeah.
like, you could be the best artist, designer, craftsperson, singer, but if no one's heard of you, it's going to be hard to grow. And so we've been very fortunate with catching the early wave of things like Instagram and other social media stuff that kind of help us have much further reach right off
Yeah.
the top.
Totally.
And even when we started, I didn't have any product, and I was really just showcasing process. And so, if that was your entry point to discovering us, we were showcasing that, some of these components start off as a billet piece of brass, and it's water jet cut, and then CNC'd, and then hand polished. So like, each component, as small as it is, it's being 100% custom made with genuine materials. It effectively afforded us to have content, but it also then helps circumvent maybe some of the conversation that in early stages of projects, when I slide an invoice across the table, there's less sticker shock, because like, doing anything custom is not, let's face it, it's not the most
cheap.
way of doing it.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, but there's inherent value, because that they've been following along and realizing, there's nothing off the shelf about this. Like, we're going to be building this from scratch, and giving you the best possible product as we possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like it's you're getting credibility without even starting, right? Because they're seeing the quality behind it, they're seeing the intention behind it, they're seeing the time, the materials. So you're already increasing your value, your market in the marketplace, your value in the marketplace, excuse me, before they even see it. Being international, how important it is, whether you're a designer, whether you're a creative, in any realm, how important it is, you think, for you to travel, to be seen, to go to these international shows? Because again, I would imagine like you need to be seen. I always say, like, when I started, shake hands and kiss babies, right? You have to be, there's so much you can do online, but I have to see you in person. I have to make those connections and develop that relationship. Even if you see me first online, I still need to see you in person to really try to like strengthen that relationship.
I've really noticed that with our relationships with some of our Italian partners. there's it's kind of faux pas. Like, yes, there's contracts and stuff like that, but it's no, we're gonna have dinner, break bread together, and that's our bond. Like, you're
Yeah.
family now. And so that's really important. And I know in various parts of the world, I've been very fortunate to travel to, if it's different parts of Europe and London or Dubai. It's interesting to see where design navigates, because it's very fluid. There is an undertone or an ethos, I think, that transcends in all of that. But again, from a more strategic standpoint, especially when we're launching new products, based on what I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
you know, if you have the credibility and you can make it in Europe first, then people obviously here maybe in North America will discover you and be like, oh shoot, this guy's in our own backyard.
Right.
And
Right.
so it's an interesting play. Like, when that's what we've always, when we moved into more product design and inventory product collections, that was kind of our intention, is to open up the European market first, gain credibility, set up retailers and other vendors over there, subsequently then really hammer in on North America.
Totally off the subject, but you just mentioned Dubai. And I recently came across this High Rocks fitness competition. And I know you're really
Okay.
into like biking as well. I want to know is have you heard about it? Because I think they started in Germany and they have
Which one
competitions
is
like
it?
all over the world. It's called like High Rocks. I could be saying it wrong. It's HYRUROX. It's almost like CrossFit, but it incorporates like a single workout and running. And there's like 8 stations or whatever, but it's like
No,
all over. And I literally just heard about it in Dubai, and I'm like, oh, and I know we talked about off this interview about
yeah,
like me running and other stuff. So I was wondering if that's
yeah.
something you've heard of and that's something you've got into.
No, but speaking about Dubai and traveling places outside of flying cars, it is
Hmm.
really the city of the future.
Yeah.
Every building is fill in the blank in the world, tallest
Okay.
building in the world, most
Yeah.
technologically advanced in the world, what have you. So even the hotel I stayed at, I think, was the tallest hotel in the world, and you're in some cases we were above the clouds, or going at the Burj Khalifa, and you're seeing these high rises that you were just in that were the tallest in the world. And you go to Burj Khalifa and they look like, little models.
Yeah.
It really is wild, from seeing beautiful brand new Lamborghinis completely covered in dust, shit kicked, because it's wild. And so the wealth and the culture, it's definitely different.
Yeah.
But I love, I think that's the same with anyone who travels. You kind of take off your hat of what you're not, who you normally are, and you have an opportunity to really kind of explore, be vulnerable. You're a tourist. You don't maybe not know the area, may not know the cultures, but that's the beauty of it. And to drink it all in, figuratively, literally, it's really, that's what I love about traveling. And just, the discovery and the serendipitous of it all.
Definitely. Have you noticed as you become and grow into other markets, have you noticed you mentioned like if you can make it in Europe, you can make it anywhere. Essentially, that's how it's seen, right? But from a taste perspective, have you seen different regions that respond differently to different product types you have? And if you have you even thought of maybe creating different product types for different areas? Or you just want to be everything's international, and if you love it, you love it, and if not, maybe I'm just not your cup of tea or whatever.
Absolutely. I've got no shortage of sketchbooks that I probably have 1,000 designs that we've
Yeah.
worked on, that, just sitting in sketchbooks or sitting in the filing cabinet, or up on the board. And so there's no shortage of stuff. And, sometimes we go back to them, and we look at them, or oftentimes clients will come to us and be like, hey, we have a space, we've got this project. Oftentimes they'll refer to previous work of ours. Hey, I like what you did over there, but can I get a little bigger to finish what?
Yeah.
Or there's nothing better than when they're like, yeah, we have a space. What would you do here?
Do what you want, right?
And sometimes, that can be difficult, and
Yeah.
my job is to go from doing absolutely anything to what it is we're doing as quick as possible. And when you don't have any boundaries, it can be difficult.
Yeah.
Things like, there's a kind of a protocol that I go through when I'm working together on a custom project, understand the space itself, understanding the aesthetic of the space, looking at mood boards. Like, what is the story that the space is trying to tell?
Yeah.
That informs things. Budget helps inform things. The envelope in which I'm working with, what's going on in the ceiling, what can we hang things from it, or can it hold some weight?
Yeah.
All that informs when I'm doing a custom project. But oftentimes, there's no better compliment where, I can go back to my sketchbook and like, oh, this idea that we had 2 years ago, it's the perfect opportunity to kind of resurrect this from the dead, uh,
Yeah.
and or revise upon, or something completely brand new, and you're showing it to the client, and they're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for, which
How'd you
is
know?
a great compliment. But usually it takes a little bit of lots of questioning and lots of like pulling out the answers, maybe translating a little bit
Hmm.
figuratively to kind of really get it to what they're looking for. But if you've done your job properly, you've asked all the right questions, that's the type of response you should get.
Awesome. So I'll leave it at this. What is next? What market is next? What product line? I mean, I don't want to give away too many exclusives. I know what you can, but what are you doing in 2025-ish and beyond? Where are you going?
Absolutely. I think we're going to continue to, even within OVA, you'll probably see some new colorways there. But there's
Okay.
some partnerships that are coming out, which, without giving too much away,
Yeah.
that works with circadian rhythm.
Okay.
So, very technological lighting that helps promote wellness, helps change throughout the day, integrates beautifully with other systems. And so integrating this kind of like new light technology into a more decorative or even in some cases architectural lighting is one of the big areas that we're looking at, as
Okay.
well as looking at more sustainable methodology. So like I said, most of our stuff made out of metal, I would hope no one's recycling these. We're intending that these are lifetime investments that you'll have
Totally.
for many, many years to come. Uh, but looking at more sustainable, maybe even more price point friendly
Okay.
products, be it desktop lamps, because primarily we deal with chandeliers, pendant systems, linear lights. Something that has some visual impact. It's great to someone that said this to me. Like, some people, I love that you came up with a product line because not everyone can afford a Gucci suit, but they can have a brooch and they can
Yeah,
still have
exactly.
a piece of the magic. And
Totally.
so, we're going to pour just as much time and effort into something that maybe a little bit smaller, more attainable, as we would do even our custom projects. We want you to be able to get up this close to that. Wow, that finished. How are they wiring this? I pour over the details, and nothing is slapped together.
No, I'm sure you're going to continue to innovate. I can't wait to see what's next. I can't wait to see the documentary video you're going to be releasing sometime soon, hopefully, and the partnerships. And I guess I'll say next international show that you're going to be at, that I'm going to be at, I'll make sure I'm ready to party all night.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. There's definitely. Anytime I get to get away a little bit, I think it also has to do with if you're running a business, you've got a young family, and
Yep.
you're able to get away from a little bit, you can let your hair down a little bit.
You have to. You have to, right? You need those breaks in between. Well,
Yeah,
thanks again. Great having you. Congratulations again on the Gray Award. Yeah, I guess I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon somewhere.
absolutely. It's great to see you.
All right, man. Have a good day. All right, bye.
Bye.